The Wanderings of Aeneas, an epic of the Romans retold from the Latin of Virgil. Taken from the My Bookhouse series, volume titled From the Tower Window. In ages gone, the Greeks for 10 long years besieged great Troy, whereto King Priam's son, the thieving Paris, bore his stolen Helena, the wife of Sparta's king, and so by wanton selfishness brought down upon his sire, his country, and his friends the woes of war. And in those days no Trojan hero, save great Hector, bore himself more nobly in the fray than goddess-born Aeneas, son of old Anchises and fair Venus, queen of love. Strong-hearted in defense of home and hearth, Aeneas fought until the wily Greeks, pretending flight, yet left upon the Trojan plain a wooden horse, which, when the men of Troy had been induced by trickery to drag within the walls, disgorged by night a hidden throng of Greeks to open up the city gates, let in their fellow Greeks, and so bring down that one last night of horror on sad Troy. It was the hour when heaven's first gift of sleep on weary hearts of men most sweetly stole, but shrieks and loud confusion swept the town, till unto that fair far dwelling where Aeneas slept, embowered in trees, the din grew near, and the battle thunder swelled. Aeneas woke, and starting from his couch, climbed to his rooftop and its tower, then stood with listening ear like some stray shepherd on a distant cliff, who hearkens dumb with fear while far away he hears a mountain stream that bursts in flood and overwhelms sweet fields and farms. Shrill trumpets rang, loud voices roared, and all the air resounded high as heaven with shouts of war. Then wildly ran Aeneas to the fight. Beneath the pale moon, see, the whole vast horde of Greeks swarms in the town. With fronting spears they throng each narrow street, their steel-bright blades all flashing naked, while the battle flames leap high. "To arms, my men, to arms!" Aeneas cried, and roused his Trojan friends to join his band, till past the foemen's steel they forced their way, while wings of night above them brooded in one sad, vast vault of shade. But who the bloodshed of that night can tell? The ancient city fell. Along her streets were strewn the unresisting dead. At household shrines and by the temples of the gods they lay. Then all the roar and tumult led Aeneas and his friends unto King Priam's palace, where so fierce a battle raged it seemed as if, save this, there were no other conflict known. By secret way Aeneas and his band go in to join the throng who guard the doors, for there Troy's dying brave make one last stand and seek a warrior's death. But spite of all, assailing Greeks break down the door and swarming in do butchery, while through the vista of long courts and corridors confusion groans and turmoil rise. From many a dark retreat the women shriek and wail. Their loud cries strike the stars. The old Queen Hecuba and all the princesses take refuge vain before a shrine, close gathering there like panic-stricken doves in a dark storm, while seeing thus his kingdom lost, the aged king himself doth bind his rusted armor on, resolved to die encircled by the foe. Then to the shrine one stalwart son, pursued and wounded unto death, comes plunging in sad flight. The father weakly hurls his spear at him, who follows in pursuit, but lo, the Greek, in cold disdain, doth clutch the old man's tresses gray, and bury deep his sword in that defenseless heart. Then first wild horror on Aeneas fell, and dazed him utterly. As thus he saw old Priam die, a vision rose before his inward eye of his own cherished father, and his wife and little son, in danger left at home. He longed a warrior's death to find, but in that moment, wild with woe, he saw with vision clear and golden beams that pierced the moonlight gloom, his goddess mother, lovely Venus, stand with all that mien of majesty she wore in heaven itself, while from her lips of rose this counsel fell. Fly, O my son, the war's wild work is o'er. Anchises, thine old father, thou must save, and her, thy wife, Creusa, and Ascanius, thy son. So went Aeneas to his home, but lo, his sire, whom first of all he sought, and first would bear to safe asylum in the distant hills, vowed he would never, after fall of Troy, live longer on, or bear an exile's woe. In vain Creusa begged and small Ascanius. Anchises still cried no, and clung to where he sat, nor would be moved until a wonder fell. On young Ascanius's head a tongue of flame appeared, and harmless o'er his tresses played, while suddenly, with deafening thunder peal, cleaving the blackness of the vaulted sky, a meteor star in trailing splendor ran exceeding bright. Then old Anchises cried in holy awe, "Gods of my fathers, what a sign!" Through him, Ascanius, the gods do promise thus a glorious future for our name. I yield, dear son, and journey at thy side. Aeneas gave the orders that the servants of his house, each by a separate way, should go to meet him at a ruined shrine to Ceres, which lay deserted, a little mound beneath an ancient cypress shade outside the city gates. He bowed his shoulders broad, o'erspread him with a lion's tawny skin, and lifted old Anchises on his back, entrusting to the old man's care the little images of all their household gods, and taking by the hand his infant son, while at a safe distance fair Creusa followed in the rear. Through shadows then they crept, while he who once had viewed undaunted every instrument of war, and all the gathered Greeks in grim array, now shook at every gust, and heard all sounds with fevered fear, alarmed for him, the old man whom he bore, and him, the little son, who clasped his hand, and with such toddling steps must run to keep his father's stride. So when they came to Ceres' hallowed hill, they found the servitors all gathered there. One person only came not to that meeting place. Creusa, young and fair and so beloved, alas, she came not. Oh, alas! Entrusting then his sire and son unto the deep dark shadows of the slanting vale, Aeneas hurried back to that doomed town, and offered once again his life to perils without end, in searching for his wife. From street to street he ran with anguish vain, and on Creusa piteously he called, awakening naught but echoes lone and sad. What dark disaster had befallen her? Alas, he never did more look on her alive. Until the dawn he searched, but when the morning star above the crest of tall Mount Ida rose, chief in the front of day, he joined his friends again, much wondering to find a mighty multitude assembled there, for exile bound, and looking unto him to be their leader and their guide. So, yielding up his grief, and lifting once again his aged sire, he fled for refuge to the distant hills. And there, while Troy in smoldering ashes lay, the refugees built ships beneath the shade of fair Mount Ida's peak. As soon as smiled the light of summer's prime, Anchises, much revered for wisdom of the seer, cried, "Let the sails be spread." And through his tears Aeneas saw recede his native shore, the haven in the plains where once was Troy. An exile on the seas, with son and followers and Troy's great guardian gods, he took his way. By Thrace they pass, and Delos' sacred isle. On Crete they land, but there the while Aeneas sleeps, the sacred images of Trojan gods, which through the flames he bore from burning Troy, now seem to rise and stand before him, bathed in silver beams that fall from the great moon, stream through the latticed wall. These tell him plainly that their true abode, the second Troy, shall be in that far land called Italy, and nowhere else, and there shall spring the Trojan-born Aeneas' race, a man to found great Rome, imperial mistress of the earth, and set Aeneas' name in glory mid the stars. And so, again, with spreading sails, Aeneas coursed in hollow ships the spacious sea, and past the many isles of Greece he sped until the sun rolled through the year's full circle, and the waves, no longer safe and fair with lightly whispering breezes o'er their tranquil plain, were rough with icy winter's northern gales. And then it chanced one morn, when from the sky aurora's purple warned away the stars, that lying very low along the far horizon dim, they saw the hills of Italy, and cried with shouts of joy, Italia, hail! The while Anchises wreathed a bowl with flowers, and from the ship's high stern poured wine into the sea in offering to the gods. But now they hear from far the crash of shouting seas, and shoot to skyward on the arching surge, then dropping deeper than the grave they sink, while round about thrice below those vast cliffs of Scylla's fearful strait that lies twixt Italy and Sicily's fair isle. Now thrice they see the spouted foam in showers of stars, then wind and sun do fail, and weary, worn, not witting of their way, they drift away from Italy, and round the shores of Sicily, where dread Mount Etna's throat with roar of frightful ruin thunders nigh, uplifting globes of flame with monster tongues that lick the stars. And when on Sicily's far shore they land, alas, Anchises, worn by stormful seas, sole comfort of Aeneas' grievous doom, Anchises dies. His body to the earth they give, and with dark offerings dire build altars sorrowful. Nor do they turn once more with hearts of hope toward Italy, ere Juno, queen of gods, who ever did pursue the Trojans with wild hate, because her rival Venus favored them, now feared that Venus's very son, Aeneas, might reach Italy and there build up a new and greater Troy. In anger now unto the storm-cloud land she goes, where pent in chains and bastions strong, the warring winds make empty mountains roar, as wild they chafe against their bonds, while from a throne of lofty crag great Aeolus their king, with sceptred hand allays their fury and their rage confines. To Aeolus the angry Juno cries, Uprouse thy gales, strike that proud Trojan navy down, hurl far and wide and strew the waves with dead. And Aeolus, obedient to his queen, smites with his spear the hollow mountain's wall. Then rush the winds through that wide breach in long embattled lines, and sweep tumultuous from land to land with brooding pinions o'er the waters spread. Vast billows shoreward roll. The shout of mariners is heard, and creak of cordage, while low-hanging clouds conceal from Trojans' eyes all sight of heaven and day. Night o'er the ocean broods. From sky to sky the thunders roll and ceaseless lightnings glare. Aeneas groans and raises both his hands in prayer, but still the waves upsurge. 3 ships are wrecked. The lonely swimmers breast the wave, and on the waste of waters wide, weapons of war are seen with spars and planks and treasures rare, that once were Troy's proud boast. Meanwhile, how all his smitten ocean moaned, the ocean's god, great Neptune, knew, and with indignant mien uplifted o'er the sea his sovereign brow. Proud Aeolus may play the king in yon close-bounded prison house of storms, he cried, but yet he doth not rule my sea. He spoke, and swifter than his word, he harnessed to his azure car his raging steeds with wild white manes, then skimmed along the crested waves with all his train of nymphs, sea beasts, and whales, while there before his path the rolling billows ceased, and storm clouds fled away. So ceased the sea's uproar, and all the wave-worn Trojan crew on coast of Africa to harbor sailed, and flung their dripping limbs along the ground in passionate longing for the touch of land, while great Aeneas once again their mournful mood consoled, and stretched at ease on couch of simple green. They rallied their lost powers, and feasted well on seasoned wine and haunch of game. And when the cheerful dawn upon him broke, Aeneas, taking with him one sole friend, set out to make a survey of this land where wind and wave had driven him, for desert land of sand it seemed. But now it chanced that there was rising near the walls of Carthage, new-built citadel of Dido, that fair queen, who recently from Tyre had fled. Sichaeus, her dear husband, had been richest of all Tyrian lords. But when the kingly power in Tyre unto Pygmalion, Dido's brother, came, that wicked wretch, all blinded by his greed, did murder foul upon Sichaeus, and long hid the deed, while with false hopes of her dear lord's return fair Dido he deceived. But as queen Dido slept, her husband's ghost before her came, and told the tale, then counseled her to fly, self-banished from her ruined land, while for her journey's aid he whispered where his buried treasure lay, a weight unknown of silver and of gold. Thus rallying to her cause her friends, Queen Dido sailed away and landed there in Africa, where for a price she bought so much of Afric's soil as one bull's hide could measure round. Meanwhile, Aeneas and his friend soon climbed the brow of that high hill which overlooked the town, and there, where lately naught but Africa's rude cabins rose, Aeneas saw the smooth, wide ways, the bastioned gates. He heard the uproar of the throng, while Tyrians toiled unwearied, lifting ponderous stones for wall or citadel, or laying firm the base of their great theater, as busy bees above a field of flowers in early summer amid sunbeams toil. Deep in the city's heart, there stood a grove of beauteous shade, where Dido had upraised a temple to great Juno. And thereto Aeneas made his way to wait the coming of the queen, while all the mighty temple he admired, and saw thereon in carvings fair those well-remembered scenes of Troy's great war, now told upon men's lips the whole world round. And while he stood, lost deep in memory, Queen Dido to the shrine in lovely majesty drew near, a throng of youthful followers pressing round her way in bright processional. As fair as lithe Diana, tallest of her train, did Dido pass among her subjects. Not less bright her gracious joy while she approved her kingdom's pomp and vast empire. And then, beneath the temple's vaulted dome, she took her place encompassed by armed men and lifted high upon a throne. And now, to his amaze, Aeneas saw there, suing at her throne, those comrades whom he had deemed lost in shipwreck on the deep. They told the queen of him, Aeneas, and his deeds. And Dido cried, "Oh, that the storm which brought you here had likewise brought your king." So did Aeneas cry, "Behold the man you seek, for I am he, Aeneas, Trojan born." And as Queen Dido saw him there, she felt her heart stand still, and thrilled again to hear what great adventures had befallen him. She bade Aeneas welcome 'neath her royal roof, and sent the Trojans on the shore, a score of bulls, 100 bristling swine, and lambs to make a feast, while great Aeneas sent her gifts from his tall ships, a gold-embroidered cloak, a crown of jewels, a scepter, and a necklace of round pearls. Then in her ample court Queen Dido bade a feast be spread, and had the table set with massive silver, gold embossed, whereon were graved the mighty deeds of all her sires. And now Aeneas and his band of Trojan chivalry at social feast on lofty pillowed couches lay. Deft slaves fresh water on their fingers poured, and from reed-woven basketry renewed the plenteous bread, or brought smooth table linen of soft weave. Some 50 handmaids served, or at the altars bright threw balm and incense on the sacred fires, while full 100 beauteous pages kept the generous board piled high and filled the bowl. As Dido with Aeneas talked, the dear name of her husband, dead Sichaeus, 'gan to fade, and once again her heart went beating new with life and love. And when the main part of the feast was done, the servitors replaced the banquet with huge bowls and crowned the wine with ivy leaf and rose. Loud rang the roof with echoing voices. From the gilded vault far blazing cressets swung, or torches bright drove night away. The queen herself called for her golden chalice, studded round with jewels, outpoured the sacred drop due to the gods. Then lightly from the rim the first taste sipped, and passed the foaming bowl along. On gilded lyre a minstrel sang, and last, to crown the night, Aeneas told all his tales of wanderings.